Joining us now to discuss the top headlines of the day is Dennard, the Senior Communications Advisor for Black Media Affairs for the Republican National Committee. Paris, I want to get your comments on this latest thing that's happening in Minneapolis. We're seeing reports right now that 4 police officers have been fired over the death of that individual. What is your response to that video that's since gone viral and prompted this action by Minneapolis?
Well, clearly the video is disturbing to watch, to listen to. Anytime somebody is struggling for their life and audibly saying it, reminds us of the Eric Garner situation that happened a couple of years ago. It's a tragedy. But at the end of the day, we have to remember that there has to be a rule of law. And I want everyone not to rush to judgment on either side. I think it's important for us to collect the facts and let the people on the ground do the investigation. And we can just pray and hope that the investigation is fair. There's no doubt that we have a history of issues with our criminal justice system dating back to 1994 and Joe Biden's crime bill that incarcerated thousands of Black Americans across this country, destroying the Black family, Black community, and Black generational wealth. This is why I'm grateful for President Trump for supporting things like criminal justice reform. And so we just pray for justice. And I hope the Democrat mayor and the Democrat governor of Minnesota will do the right thing and get their police force under control if there is issues involving training, sensitivity, and things of that nature involving minorities or any American citizen in this country. They shouldn't be treated inhumanely or abused in any way if that is the case that the facts lay out with this issue.
And I think that's very well said, but I do want to broaden this out to a more large picture, a more systemic thing that you're talking about right there, and it's the idea that maybe a lot of the policies that are taking place in the more urban areas in this country aren't putting a lot of African Americans in a place to succeed. Of course, a lot of this comes back to financial type of components, and you say right there that it comes back to a lot of the policies that have been put in place over the years that haven't necessarily favored them in that way. And you talk about Joe Biden as well. He's someone who made a comment last week saying that essentially you're not Black if you don't vote for him. I want to get your response to those comments as well.
Yeah, it was particularly offensive to hear a 77-year-old white man in quarantine in his basement in Delaware lecture or white-splain, if you will, to the Black community, Black conservatives, Black Republicans, and even Black liberals who might be voting or supporting Bernie Sanders or somebody outside of Joe Biden. Anybody that's Black that's not supporting or voting for Joe Biden, he says, you're not Black. This is offensive. But you know what? It's not all too surprising because it's just a long line of bigoted statements that Joe Biden has made through the years. And through the years, the Democrats and fellow peers of his in the Democrat Party and the media have given him cover and giving him permission to be the bigot that he is, but no more. The Trump campaign, the Republican National Committee, we are hitting back and we're reminding everyone of this man's record since he said that's what we should do. And even Charlemagne the God said that at the end of the day, Joe Biden was on the front lines when it came to mass incarceration. Joe Biden should be ashamed of himself. And Bob Johnson, the founder of BET, said he should spend the rest of his campaign apologizing to every Black person that he meets because what he said was arrogant and paternalistic and disgusting.
And I think we need to give credit to Charlemagne the God for that interview, too. I mean, he was asking questions that I haven't seen a lot of people on mainstream media networks asking Joe Biden about, and then pressing him even after the fact, not just letting this issue kind of go to the back burner and forget about it. I thought it was actually a very good interview all around. But I think that there is something to touch on as well. Is there an opportunity here now for Republicans to take advantage of maybe not just this situation, but the situation that many Blacks feel themselves in across the country, whether it be an economic situation, whether it be the police thing that we were talking about before? Is there an opportunity for Republicans to maybe chip away at some of the Democrat support that they typically do for in elections?
Yeah, very good question. For nearly 4 years, the Democrat Party leaders and the mainstream media have put out a false narrative about President Trump and the Republican Party, mainly saying that President Trump is a racist and that his policies are hurting Black America, when I know and the 8% of Black people who voted for him in 2016 just on a promise. They voted for him just on the hope that when he said, what do you have to lose, that the president would do something. And now fast forward to 2020 in this election, we have a president that can look Black America and look at the whole country in the face and say, The promises that I made are the promises that I kept when it comes to HBCUs and school choice and criminal justice reform and opportunity zones and a lot of other things that have been really impacting our community, the Black community, in a positive way. It's an opportunity for us to draw the line in the sand and say no more. And it's also an opportunity for us to say to the Black community, give President Trump and the Republicans a first look or a second look, because Joe Biden wants to examine his record. Let's look at the record. And the record for Donald Trump as president has been stellar when it comes to the Black community, especially when it comes to the economic advances that were made prior to COVID-19. And even during COVID-19, the measures that he's taken to address the disproportionate impact has been significant. And so I do think it's an opportunity for us to directly engage with Black media like we're doing, like the Republican National Committee and the Black Voices for Trump are doing, and directly connect with the Black community on the ground, which we are doing as well.
And I think it goes back to what the Biden gaffe, if you will, although I don't know if it's necessarily a gaffe. I think he
No,
may
it's
have...
not a gaffe.
Yeah.
It's not a gaffe. It's exactly what he feels and it's exactly what he believes, and it's not a joke. These are his bigoted statements.
And I think it comes back to the idea, too, that nobody is owed the vote from any demographic. You have to earn that. And when you look at what the Trump administration has done to what you're saying, they've made it a focus. I mean, the First Step Act, the unemployment rate, the rising wages for everybody. I think it's a very persuasive argument if they can get that messaging across. So I think that's where this battle is going to be played going into November. Paris Dennard, it's always a pleasure having you on. Thanks for talking to us tonight.
Thanks for having me.